So which are the best teams to use with Kinich? In this video, I'm going to be explaining his teammates and which of them are going to be the best meta teams for him. So hopefully by the end, you'll be able to build your perfect Kinich team. Before we do that though, if you're trying to get Kinich and some of his teammates, you're going to need a lot of Primo Gems and Genesis Crystals. The best way to do that is going to be throughout Lootbar GG. Lootbar is going to be a very safe and secure top-up website where you can buy different games currencies, including Genshin Impact. If you want to buy from there, you'd want to click the link in the description. You go to the website, choose the game, for example, Genshin Impact, and then choose an offer. For example, this offer here is going to cost me around $50 in the official game store. On Lootbar, it's going to cost me $43.23. That's around $7 or 15% saved. And with coupons, you can have even more discounts. With Lootbar, you can save up to 20% when buying your Genesis Crystals. But yeah, you just want to choose your offer, enter your user ID and region, make sure they're right. Click on top up now, enter your payment information, and then just click on proceed. After you do that, you just want to wait a couple minutes and then open up your game, and the Genesis Crystals are going to be there. Those are some reviews from their website. They're very safe and secure. Use the link in the description to get your Genesis Crystals from Lootbar now. Alright, so first of all, Kinich's teams are going to be kind of limited. Usually you just want to use them in either a Burden or Burgeon team, which are like pretty much the same thing, you just add in a Hydro. The reason for that is just simply his kit. You can say like he's a Dendro enabler on field, so you can just use him at any teams, like I'll hate them teams for example or whatever, but this is not really the case. It's just mainly because of his kit. In most of Kinich's teams, Kinich is going to be the one dealing damage. It's just like a normal traditional DPS. The only problem is that for him to deal damage and deal hits, he's going to need charges, and he gains these charges from his passive, and he only gains them in Burn-In and Burgeon teams. Without these charges, his own damage is going to be lacking by a lot, so even though it's going to be applying Dendro, he's not really going to be the best on any other reaction outside of Burn-In and Burgeon. Add that to the fact that he also scales with purely attack. He's not like a character who scales with Elemental Mastery and attack, like I'll hate them for example or whatever, and that means his reactions damages are going to be pretty low, so you cannot really choose one of them. You either build Elemental Master on him and make the reactions damage high, but Kinich's own damage is going to be super low, and in that case you're just wasting his kit, or you just play him in a normal team where you just build his attack and then the reactions damage is going to be low, and that's going to be the case with Burden. When I say Kinich is going to be played in a Burden team, the Burden damage is not really going to be much. Most of the damage is just going to come out from Kinich anyways, because the Burden damage is just like low anyways, and also you're not going to be building any Elemental Mastery, so it's just not worth it. You just want to use the Burn-In to build stacks for Kinich, and that's it. So yeah, you cannot really play him in like Hyper Bloom or Quicken teams or whatever. You just want to play him in Burn-In and Burgeon teams, and that's it. Outside of that, you're going to be wasting his kit. Knowing that, that's going to limit his teams by a lot, so I'm not even going to do like different teams. All of his teams are going to be either Burn-In and Burgeon, so instead I'm just going to go through different team slots and give you his possible teammates for that. So first of all, starting off with the first support and team slot for Kinich, it's going to be Bennett. Bennett is going to be so good with Kinich to the point where I would say he's kind of necessary, and with Bennett's huge attack buffs, he's going to benefit from them by a lot. So yeah, I would say Bennett is honestly just necessary with Kinich. There's just a huge damage difference from his teams with Bennett and without Bennett to the point where it's just like, just use him. Also, it's going to be Pyro, and you'd want to use other Pyros with Kinich. So the synergy is going to be pretty well with the energy, the Pyro Resonance, which is more attack and a lot of things. So I'd say Bennett is definitely a very, very good option. You definitely should just use him with Kinich. Even though he might have some problems, like his circle with Kinich's playstyle, sometimes you can like step outside of it and maybe lose the buffs, but in general, it doesn't really matter. No other character is gonna like come close to Bennett's support, so you just want to use Bennett with Kinich. This is like a reserved slot. The first slot on your team, just slap in Bennett, trust me. Now, moving on to the second slot on your team, usually here you just want to use a Pyro Enabler because, well, it's a Burn-In team, so you'd want to burn. Bennett is not going to be enough of Pyro Enabler, so you just want to use, you know, your usual Pyro Enablers. The ones we have right now are either going to be Xiangling, Thoma, Dea, or Xinyan. Obviously, Xiangling is going to be your best option. She's going to be dealing some good damage, even though you're not going to be vaping. And then also, she's just going to apply good Pyro. You just want to make sure you play her with Bennett and have enough energy recharge because she might struggle in this type of teams with Kinich. But in general, she's just going to be your go-to option. The rest of the Pyros can also work. It depends on like which teams and which one you want to use. In pretty much all cases, really, Xiangling is going to be better. So if you can and you want to, just use her. If not, then like Dea is going to be good then as like a sustain, also a Pyro Enabler. Thoma is probably going to be much better in like Burgeon teams. That's probably where you'd want to use Thoma if you're using another Hydro in the team. In that case, you just want to use Thoma because he can synergize pretty well with Burgeon. But in general, if you can, I would say just use Xiangling and that's it. Even though her potential is going to be kind of wasted because you're not going to be vaping her, but you still want to use her with Kinich if you can. Now for your last team slot, this is like the most diverse. This is what kind of like decides which team you want to go for. So yeah, you have a couple of options. Let's go through them one by one because it can matter a lot which one of them you use. First one we have is going to be Emily. If you go with Emily, then you're just going with a burn-in team and she's going to be pretty good in this team. Her synergy is going to be super good with burn-in damage. It's going to help her own damage, stuff like that. And she's going to be a good extra source of damage for Kinich for sure. So if you're trying to go for a burn-in team, then Emily is definitely a very good option. Another option you can have is going to be Fiorina. Fiorina is a Hydro and mainly all of her buffs are going to help Kinich for sure and the rest of your team. She can also deal a decent amount of damage on her own and she's going to be a reverse vaping all of this damage. So it's actually going to be a considerable amount of damage, but mainly also for her buffs. She's going to provide all of your team with a huge amount of damage bonus and Kinich is going to appreciate that by a lot. So Fiorina is probably going to be one of the good options too. Now if you want to go for a Burgeon team, even though I don't really recommend it, you can go for more of like specialized Hydro applicators in the game like Xingqiu or Yellen. There's just gonna be Hydro applicators, really. There's not much out of there, but I just don't like Burgeon with Kinich. It's simply because he's gonna be gaining less stacks, so his own damage is not gonna be as good. It's mainly just for the cooldown of the Burgeon. It's gonna be like 2 seconds, and Kinich's like stack collection is gonna proc only once every 0.8 seconds. So they're not gonna be synced, and you're not gonna be gaining stacks as often. And obviously this is not good for Kinich's own damage. Now Burgeon can deal more damage, so technically you can make up for it, but in general you won't be building elemental mastery on the rest of your team, so it's kind of meh. It can work, that's for sure. It's not gonna be like bad, but it's definitely gonna be less superior than Burn-in. Burn-in is just gonna be more consistent. You're gonna be gaining stacks very consistently with Kinich. As soon as you finish the cooldown, you're gonna gain another stack. You're gonna be charging those Night Soul points, and then you can deal your hits. So over the rotation, that's gonna result in more damage for Kinich, because it's just gonna be faster stacks. So yeah, in general, I don't recommend just using a Hydra Enabler for Burgeon teams. I'd recommend just sticking with Burn-in. Alright, so now finally knowing all of that, let's give in some team examples for Kinich. First of all, starting off with your standard, probably your best team to use. It's going to be Kinich. Xiangling as a Pyro Enabler, as I said. You'd want to use Emily as also as kind of a sub DPS for the burn-in damage, and then Bennett as a buffer. I think this is probably going to be like your best in slot team for Kinich in general, just simple. A lot of it is free to play. If you have Emily, then this is probably the go-to team you'd want to use with Kinich. And then for a Burgeon team example, you can just use Kinich and then a Hydra Enabler, let's say Xingqiu, and then you want to use a Pyro Enabler like Thoma, for example, and then finally Bennett is always going to be there. I repeat, if you're removing Bennett, then your teams are just going to be worse. As simple as that. So just keep him there. But yeah, tell me what teams you're going to be using in the comments. I'm pretty sure you guys have some cool random teams. I always like to do like team videos and then I just see some random teams in the comments. They're like, yeah, thank you for the explanation, but I'm using my Kinich in like a Klee team. I don't know. But yeah, tell me yours in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.